जो तारुफ की मोहताज नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी उनकी तारीफ में अगर 2 शब्द कहें तो मैं आपको बताऊंगा कुछ एक बात। 1997 मार्च में ये कमीशन हुए थे आर्मी एयर डिफेंस में। दैट मेक्स इट टू शॉर्ट सर्विस कमीशन, OTA, जहां से मैं पढ़ा हूं, जैसे मैंने ट्रेनिंग लिए। हमारा अलवा में पढ़ा नहीं हूँ, खैर वो अलग बात है, पढ़ाई करी नहीं हो मैंने कभी, वो अलग बात है, पढ़ाया बहुत ज्यादा था वहां पे भी। बट SS63 he passed out as the sword of honor। जैसे आपने थंबनेल पे देखा होगा, कैप्टन शकील अहमद साहब को तब GC थे, तब उसके बाद AU, ACA, व्हाटएवर यू कैन सी देयर अदर सीनियर सेकंड टर्म में सॉर्ट ऑफ ऑनर से नवाजा जा रहा है। वो बेस्ट ऑलराउंडर कैडेट को मिलता है, जो सबसे अच्छा हो, अव्वल दर्जे का हो, उनको मिला जाता है। ये बहुत ही it's really not just a sword of honor, it's an honor for life. You carry that baton forever in life. He was commissioned into the Army Air Defense. After he relinquished his uniform, he started working in the corporate sector, and today I would call him a tycoon. I would really say that. I would call him an inspiration to many of us. Yes, I'm sorry, there was bad network. So I just had the honor of meeting him 2 days back. There was the Chief of Army Staff program where he had done a veteran summit under the aegis of AWPO. AWPO is the Army Welfare Placement Organization. And there again, Captain Shakil Ahmed was there. Book launch on, sorry, I opened, yes. So
there's a little bit of a network issue here.
Captain Sir?
Yes.
I'm so sorry, I think there's bad network.
Yes, I'm just checking at my... I can, but there was a little break. So good evening to you and to everyone. And there was a little network issue, but I don't know if it is at my end or yours, because mine shows that it's pretty okay. It's all bars there. So now
Sir,
I can...
Sir, फौज में मैंने एक चीज सीखी है, 2 rules. The senior is always right. If ever in doubt, refer to rule number 1. So obviously, I mean, but apart from that, jokes apart, network could be at my end, sir.
Don't know. Yes, thank you. Firstly, Major Mohammed Ali Shah, and if I may call you Ali. So it was wonderful meeting you, and I think it's a great privilege and honor to be on your show. I see there have been many illustrious, personalities here, and you inviting me, it's a great thing, and I'm really humbled. Thank you for the introduction, and so I'm here at your disposal to, be question grilled or anyhow, we want to take it forward.
How sweet, sir. How sweet, sir. That's very sweet of you. Sir, let's talk about your academy days. You passed out as the sword of honor. And again, I'm so sorry, there's a network glitch. So you passed out as a sword of honor, which is only a dream of a lot of cadets, a lot of officers, when aspirants from the army, that हम लोग sword of honor से लेके pass out होंगे. So how was it during your training days, and how were you as a cadet, and how was the feeling when you got the sword of honor, sir? उसके बारे में थोड़ा बताइए हमको, please.
Okay, so it's a very nice question. I mean, I've not been asked this question many times. So let me start that I did not want to join the army in the first place. So none of my family members are from the army. Some were in the police. Rest were all probably into business and other government services. So I did not have this notion of joining the army. I was wanting to get into the police services. So I was very, enamored by the IPS at one point of time in school. And my mother used to say, "Mera beta IPS banega," just like all the family members and the moms would say. So I was, and then I started watching Hindi movies. By the time I was ninth and tenth, and I saw that the police services probably is not for me. I didn't really want to get into that. Then I wanted to get into the Air Force. I was very motivated. I was in NCC, and I was in NCC Army Wing because Air Wing I did not join. I went to the RD parade. I did the Guard of Honor for our chief then, General Shankar Rai Chaudhary. I was the Guard of Honor commander for the Raksha Rajya Mantri, and then I went for the youth exchange program to Canada from college. And I had already cleared OTA for the course SS61 actually. But then there was a decision to make whether I want to get into that or whether I want to go for the youth exchange program, which would take 1 year after my college. I decided to choose the latter. I went to Canada. कि सरकारी खर्चे पे भी जा रहे हैं, and I would be a brand ambassador for India, explore Canada and learn a little bit. So I wrote the CDS again and I went. I had qualified for AFA, IMA, and OTA, all three. When I came back from Canada, I kept calling because I was in Maharashtra. I belong to Orissa, Bhubaneswar. Kept calling my home, and my mom said nothing has come. But I could see in the employment news that I have already qualified for the AFA and IMA, and So I kept calling, and she said, "No, beta, there's nothing." So I wrote to the UPSC from there. They said, "Okay, your chance for the AFA and IMA are now gone because it's already delayed, and now you are to come for the SSB for OTA if you wish to." I was okay. I thought I'll write the AFA again and I'll go for the Air Force. I wanted to become a fighter pilot. When I came back home after the program, after 7 months, my younger sister told me, एयर फोर्स से कुछ आया था आपका, वो नाना जी के ट्रंक में छुपा दिया है मम्मी ने. So I was so livid that my career is gone. I wanted to be a fighter pilot, and I qualified, and my mother hid my papers. And so at that point of time, I had actually gone and given the SSB for OTA, so I had cleared that. The joining instructions came, and in anger, I went to the academy and I joined. That's another story that I told my mother because she was weeping and crying and everything. And I told her that if I don't like it, I'll come back. Don't worry. And once I went there, I felt that this was good. I liked the discipline. I liked everything. And I was one person who was committed to basically doing whatever training was being provided to me. And I was very dedicated and sincere. How people call you, you're an OG guy, you're very OG. So I was one of those kinds. I won't call myself extremely a stickler for rules, but yes, when it comes to doing things the proper way, I like to do it that way. And I didn't know that because coming from a non-Fauji background, I had no knowledge or exposure of the different kinds of arms or the ranking system or the awards that are available in the academy. And I had not done much research as well before that. I was studying in Sambalpur, which is famous for Sambalpuri saris, and career-wise, there were only like MBA, engineering, and medical. These were three things that were being talked about. So one of my training directors in NCC had told me that, okay, if you go to the academy, you need to get a sword of honor. And I had not really paid heed to that. I just remembered it that he had told me that. And one of my instructors, Havaldar Rudra Bahadur Singh Ale, who I reconnected after 22 years, just about, I think, 3 months ago. He had told me as soon as he saw me in the NCC, he said, "Aap commission lega saab, aur aap Gurkha regiment pe jayega." So I was like, okay. And so I think it was just by destiny that I was, I was destined to be in the army. And I actually applied for 1-5 Gurkhas as well in the non-PCM options, though I went into the air defense because of my PCM options. And there's an interesting story there, but if you want to hear that, I can share it. But
yes, we'd love to.
So what happened was when the Sword of Honor interview was being conducted, and I was one of the probables, and I was sitting in front of the commandant and the head of the training team, the deputy commandant, and everybody, and they were grilling me and they were asking me, "You have applied for air defense, it's soft arm, and you're going to, if you're contending for the sword, you should have applied for something more martial." And so I said, "Sir, I have three reasons to basically apply for the air defense." I said, "What happened?" I said, "Sir, I'm a PCM graduate with electronic as ancillary, and my studies would come to use in a fairly technical, quasi-technical arm, which is air defense, which it's a very modern arm. And what's the second point?" I said, "Second point is that, the Air Defense College is in Orissa, and, there's my mother and my sisters to look after. So for every course that I go, I could sort of look up my family and take care of them. And the third thing that is there, that I never wanted to join the army. I wanted to actually fly and be a fighter pilot. So if I can't fly, I might just shoot the bastards down." So, they were like, "Oh, okay, that's it." I said, "Yes, sir." So I thought,
That's a good one. Good one.
yes. So I think it was more of a thing that I had actually been an SF opti. In the beginning of my course, I was completely into it. I wanted to be in the special forces. I broke my wrist twice during the training, and the doctors told me that you should not opt for maybe an arm which requires very very heavy physical attributes, because you're going to break it again. And I did break that again, like a total number of 7 times, both my hands. uh, so during my passing out, like just before my passing out, I had to rip off my plaster and do all my FATs with a sort of a crepe bandage, because they were not allowed. I was not allowed to um, sort of be considered for merit on the basis of my initial tests. And I wrote about
So,
this on
कौन
LinkedIn
सी
a little
स्ट्रक्चर हुई
story.
थी आपकी, लेफ्ट या राइट?
Right. And
By God, and you did the sword drill and all, everything. You got the sword with a fractured wrist.
in fact, I did the entire Shatrujit camp with a plaster on my wrist. I did the entire race back. I did all the digging with my left hand. I did all the training and
For
camping
our
with my.
viewers to understand, Camp Shatrujit is like a camp which we go in OTA, and in the end, there's a race back. There's a 40 kilometers race back. It's called Josh Run, where you run with a 35 kg of backpack, पपलूस को कहते
Yes.
हैं, वो पिट्ठू में और एक राइफल के साथ 40 kilometers, ladies and gentlemen. Can you imagine that? Continuous. Ji sir, please.
And I came first. In between, I carried
Wow.
three pittus and 2 rifles extra as well. So basically, my plaster was completely turned
दोस्तों
into.
दोस्तों एक मिनट, हमारे दोस्तों को समझाने के लिए, why sir carried 3 pittus and 2 rifles extras, not because of anything else, but because of the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, the team spirit was such that अपने साथियों का वजन अपने कंधों पे लेके, because बहुत मुश्किल होता है 40 किलोमीटर कंटिन्यूअस, तो उनके ताई वो कम से कम वजन उनके पास कम हो, इसलिए। जी सर, प्लीज कंटिन्यू।
There were some injuries to other people also. So in between, just to support them. And I'd actually forgotten that my arm was broken, at the wrist, because that plaster had completely become a pulp. And I put slow and balm like we do. You must have done it. All other cadets that I know have done it. We don't care about injuries. You have a stress fracture, you have a wrist fracture, you care not, and you continue. So that was, and I think that gave a very positive twist to the fact that they didn't allow me a scribe as well. So I wrote my exams with my left hand. I practiced for about a month, and I wrote all my subjects with my left hand. And the commandant personally came to see on the ground my rope and my chin ups and my test, because he was a little worried that people will do bhaibandi with me, because the officers used to love me, my instructors. So he came personally to see whether I'm doing these things myself, or is there any leeway given to me. So that's how I basically passed out with the sword. And the other medals that I got, that time it was really very Josh and Junoon, like you say. Uh, so that's about my story in the academy. It was very good. I loved the training. In fact, I was always up for more. So that's the OTA.
सर मैं तो सर मैं भी जब मैं अकेडमी में आया मैं हार्ड कोर स्पेशल फोर्सेस ऑपरेटिव था हार्ड कोर
Right.
लाइक वो मरून बेरे कमांडो कमांडो पहनेंगे और चिड़िया बलिदान बैच एंड खत खत दैट ग्लैमर वाज वेरी अट्रैक्टिव फॉर मी एक्चुअली इनफैक्ट
Yes.
बल्कि मैं गया ही ओटी इसलिए था कि मैं एसएफ ही ज्वाइन करूंगा एंड आई वाज इंस्पायर्ड
Right.
बाय वन ब्रिगेडियर शशि खन्ना वेरी गुड ऑफिसर who
Right.
before joining the academy he motivated me like big time. He was deputy GOC of 54 div in Secunderabad.
Okay.
So he told me,
Okay.
बेटा ऐसे 9 पैरा SF ही जाना. तो मैं यस
Right.
सर जोश के साथ. मगर आई नो फिर फंडे थोड़े बहुत कहीं पे कहीं नहीं इतने रिस्ट्रिक्शन में दौड़ चुका था अकेडमी में कहीं ना कहीं फंडे क्लियर हो गए थे मेरे. So they after thereafter you were commissioned into ADA and so tell me
Yes.
about the various postings that you would have had. Where were you? Where were you first posted, sir?
So I basically got commissioned to Ambala. My unit was in Ambala. It had just come down from Srinagar, and we were there for quite some time. But all the action that I saw basically was I wouldn't call it even action at that point of time, but whatever deployments that we saw in this part of the sectors, it was from the unit itself. I didn't get posted anywhere outside. My all my time I spent in the unit, and interesting times because during the Kargil operations we got posted to the Valtoha sector, and interestingly I was with a very small little team right up to the border, international border, and there was a little comic incident when the brigade commander came and he saw inspected and he saw it was very close to the thing, and he told me that what are you doing here with this equipment? You're a very vulnerable target. You have to get back out of the range of certain weapons, and I would not like to mention those, but he pushed me back by a few kilometers, and so that was one of the experiences during the Operation Vijay, and most of the time spent in the unit. Then next one was Op Parakram when we got deployed in the Rajasthan on the Rajasthan border, and there it was we were dug in for over a year, and AD is the first to move in and then the last to move out, protecting the vulnerable areas and points. So we were all prepared for battle. Some of the interesting things that I did was sort of for a particular city planning their air defense, resources with very limited resources that we had at that point of time. Then every night I had to go to the right up to the pillboxes to monitor the UAVs that were being sent in by the enemy, and so many a times we came very close to some kind of action, but I don't claim to have had seen any kind of real action that would be uh, that my course-mates have seen or some very known people that I know faced. So in all, I wouldn't say it was eventful, but it wasn't the kind of action that people always dream of. Like you would get into something and something will happen. That didn't happen.
So you hung up your uniform in 2002, I presume, in March 2002. After
2003.
5
No, I took
years.
extension. I took extension because
Okay.
during the time that I had to make my choice, we were getting into the operations and the release was held in abeyance. So even if I would have wanted to leave, I wouldn't have been given the permission. So I decided to take extension and see how it goes. We were still in Operation Parakram. I was still at the border, and from there, basically, I decided that I would take extension. I took extension after a year. I applied, and I got a. So this is an interesting story. I would like to say that because I don't know if it is still continuing here. There might be somebody who can get randomly impacted by this story. Uh, when I decided to take extension, in fact, my then CEO, God bless his soul, Colonel Dipankar Ray, he was very fond of me, and he was like very upset that I'm putting in my papers, even for extension. He wanted me to take permanent commission. And I decided to tell him, sir, I've decided to move on and do something new or do something different. So he tried to find that during operations, because it was still Operation Parakram, he said that and I told him, sir, if I take PRC after during my extension, I lose another there would be another seniority loss, and I don't want that, because I was also confused. I told him, yes, sir, I'll take PRC, but I don't want to lose any seniority, undue seniority. He went through all the army orders and everything, and he couldn't find any. He put a lot of people on the job that see if there is a possibility of doing so. And I remember we were in Govindgarh, and we were staying across the canal, and we were walking on a wooden bridge. The brigade commander was walking ahead of the CO. The CO was next, and I was behind. And the CO told him, we were in the middle of the canal on the bridge, and the CO said, Sir, Shakil has decided to consider taking permanent commission. The brigade commander jumped around, turned around, and gave me a tight hug. And we were swaying on the bridge, and I was praying that we don't fall off into the canal. And he was so happy. And they really, supported me and did all they could to keep me. And So what happened was, once I filled up the papers, everything went through. I actually came and met the DGAD, Lieutenant General Naresh Chan. He knew me from NCC days, so he said, I'm stopping your papers right now. You are not going out of the AD. And the love that they had for me is phenomenal. So I told him, sir, I'll just request you not to, do what you have planned to do, but because I've already decided. So he held back. And then one day the head clerk comes and says, sir, there is an army order that is there, that in case of an operation, and if there has been a situation where operational it's required for the officer to be there and he has not been given permanent commission because of whatever reasons, during extension, a board can sit and they can actually give permanent commission without additional loss of seniority. So there is something like that which exists. And
I knew about that. Which means
yeah,
a short-term officer, when he takes permanent commission, there is a clause where he will not be lost. He will not have that loss of 6 months seniority, sir.
no. The first time you have a loss of seniority for parity because of your training, which
Right,
is
of
not
course, fair enough. Fair enough.
The second time during extension, because during extension, if it is not in my hands, or it has been because of operations that you have been held back and you have not been able to apply for a job or do something. So a special board of officers can be conducted at the, I think it is at the army headquarter level, and they can consider the case and not have additional loss of seniority to give them the permanent commission. So like the army wants you, and the organization needs you, the country needs you, and the operations is keeping you away from your next career, right? So in that case, if you want to stay back during those 5 years of extension, these days it is 10 plus 4, those time it was 5 plus 5 plus 4. So during the next 5 years of extension, you could actually get it. In my particular circumstance, where it was op parakram still, so the CEO actually said that I wish I could have found this, earlier. By the time we discovered that I was out, good or bad, I don't know, but that's just a story.
So that's wow. That's quite a wow. Yeah. Then, so altogether, you put in how many years of service in the army?
6 years of service in the unit.
Okay, sir. Okay. If my observation is right, sir, जो आप कब से आप चाय पी रहे हैं वो आहमद को कब लग रहा है मेरे को?
नहीं. So this is my unit's cup, and this is 131 made by me.
इस साइड से वो आहमद को लगा. Now I get. Okay. Right.
So this insignia has a story. In fact, it was made during the Operation Parakram by me and my commanding officer. He asked me to design some. He was very culturally inclined and wanted to do regimental history properly, and he did a lot of things. and I was his adjutant, quartermaster, TEO, and for some point 2IC as well. So I used to design this with him, and this is my design. And the unit has carried on in all their merchandise or whatever they have. This is there 13180. So
Right. Right. So then उसके बाद फौज में आने के बाद you are, मैं आपको tycoon मानता हूँ because you are really an inspiration for a lot of veterans, a lot of officers. So tell me about, let's take us through your journey after you hung up your uniform. You already a PCM graduate, and so that means you are technically sound. जो कि बहुत से फौजी जो होते हैं ना, एक मुझ जैसे, मैं तो GD soldier था बिल्कुल. So tell me about your journey after you hung up a uniform and now, sir, in the corporate sector, in the civil sector.
So टाइकून बहुत ज्यादा बड़ा वर्ड है, वो अंबानी और अडानी जी के लिए छोड़ देते हैं, और टाइकून्स एंड the tycoons of the world. But yes, it has been a very interesting journey for me, if I may say so. So what I did was I never planned my exit, like the transition that we hear a lot about these days, the veteran transition. When I left, I had no clue of what I was going to do when I filled my papers. And I was thinking, oh, I have my extension, so I will plan something. And we were so busy with the unit during Op Parakram that I did not have time to do anything except buy an employment news. So वो DR जो है वो desert में जैसे लेके आता है, चिट्ठी आई है वैसे, he came with an employment news, 2 rupees वाला. I saw the first ad for a job for ex-commissioned officers by the Reserve Bank of India. I had no idea what the job was. So I called up one person, I think, in Calcutta, and I tried to find out what it is. Oh, it's very good, it's nice, and all that. He said nothing about the grades or the levels or the CTC or whatever. So I was getting around 16,785 or something in the army. My salary sheet showed that. And they protected my salary in the Reserve Bank, gave me one more increment above that. And I joined the Reserve Bank of India. I cleared their panel interview discussion and all that, whatever was there. And there was no technicalities involved there. It was very generic, question answers by the board, and so tell us what you think about security. How did you find the bank's security here when you walked in, and all that stuff. And why do you think India is not performing well in sports? Very funny questions came all the way, and I answered them well because, as Fajis, you've already been used to a lot of these kind of interrogations and questions. So I joined Reserve Bank of India. I served there for 5 years, and I was initially posted to Mumbai, but before I could enter the bank, somebody managed their posting to Mumbai, and I was posted to Bhubaneswar. They knew I wouldn't cry because I belong to Bhubaneswar and it was a home posting. I would have wanted Mumbai, but then I had no complaints. So I served there, did a lot of things. It was purely a security and a protocol manager's role. It had its own HR issues, which we tried to address as a batch. The batch of officers who we got in, we were very passionate about how things are taken to, what would I say, at parity. Like we were having that initial thing of, like, we are coming from the armed forces, we are trained resources, the same grouse that people have these days. I had the same thing 20 years ago, 21 years ago actually. So basically, that you don't need to train me. I'm like really getting into the job from day one. I know my stuff. You have to spend not a single penny on my skilling. And still, we were taken at the lowest level of the officer cadre. And so this was, I would say, this is very funny. I mean, I didn't realize that when I got into the Reserve Bank, it is security managers in grade A. So that is like grade A. I thought is a grade A because we were officers in class 1 officers, commissioned officers. So grade A should be like high. And when I reached there, it was A, B, C, D, E. उल्टा चलता है वहां पे. और वो जो है, they actually take in fresh graduates who pass the exam in grade B levels, and they take like 5-10 years of commissioned officers, experienced commissioned officers in grade A. There's a lot of heartburn there with a lot of people. We tried to also make sure that we made a good presentation and a pitch for the same, but nothing happened. And I think it still continues the same way, which is sad. And 5 years later, they asked me. So I did a good job there. Everybody appreciated what I did for the organization. It was my duty, and I changed a very very mediocre office to a model office in terms of administration, security, and everything. So I was told that okay, 5 years now we transfer you to Delhi, and you could go and do the same thing what you did here. And I did not really have that in mind. My plans didn't work out that way, so I resigned, and I basically then joined Vedanta, which was coming up in Orissa
Anil Agarwal.
around.
Anil Agarwal.
Yes, yes. So it was an interesting
Mining.
stint. Yes, it was into mining. In fact, I joined Vedanta Alumina, to be precise, and then also become a part of the Sterlite Group, which is into energy. So they're all together, they're group companies. And I was in charge of land acquisition for the railway projects, railway project administration, and also head of infra and facilities for the power plants that they had. Two were ready, one was coming up. And so in about very very quick time, there was a lot of learning, and the graph really went up about the how the civilian sector worked. It was like an independent charge with a vehicle 24/7 driver, and it was a field posting kind of thing, because we were living in like very makeshift site offices. The I was also handling the Chinese company which had come to build the power plant for administrative purposes. So a lot of learning over there. And then there was a subprime crisis of 2008. And the township that was promised by Vedanta, they said we are postponing the township. It was actually a 700 crore project, just the officer and the employee township, which would have come out really great. It came out really well much later, like 10 years later. But my point was that I would want, and at that point of time, my wife Sahana was she founded her own Alpha Sierra Academy, and we had it in Bhubaneswar. She was running that show, and we had SSB training, we had personality development. She was working with 4 universities as visiting faculty for soft skills. So she had her own setup in Bhubaneswar, and I moved out, and I was coming back every weekend. And then after 3 years of doing that and 6 months of Vedanta, I decided to move to Mumbai because there was an offer from Citigroup Global. And Citigroup Global offered me a position of National Head Safety Security. They were actually going to be taken over by TCS, and I had no idea. Again, in the first 3 or 4 corporate roles, I was clueless about the HR part of it or the business strategy, the overall strategy, because we were so operationally engaged. And this is true for anybody who is transitioning. It takes time, even though you get all the information from some people, you hear it, but you don't absorb it and you don't understand it. So when I reached there, there was a transition from Citigroup Global to TCS, and TCS then became TCS BFSI. I was the National Head Safety Security, and so this was like around 18,000 people and 25 sites in India and abroad. And we got merged with TCS, which had 250,000 people. So obviously, if you are an AVP over there, or you're a senior manager, and then the TCS guys come in, they are way ahead of you, and you probably will have to report to them. But luckily for me, I mean, God has been kind. I've always, sort of held leadership positions, even right from my army days. As a second loot without VIOs, I was the officiating battery commander during admin inspection and CME inspections and everything, and I was briefing the brigade commanders, because there was a shortage of officers during our time. Like if our unit was authorized 27 and we were working with 7 officers, that is the kind of shortage we're talking about at that point of time. Similarly, in the RBI, I was the head of the department, even as a manager, and later on, Pfizer. There was an opportunity with Pfizer. A consultant connected. They said, "Okay, are you willing to look at this role?" I went and met. There was an American guy, my boss in Pfizer later, Scott Davis. Really thankful to him for educating me and engaging and mentoring me for a lot of things. I learned about a lot of the industry and the leadership norms from him as well. So they offered me something which was South Asia lead for global security and brand protection. Just to give you, since we are talking about the journey, how opportunities come and you can actually grab it. So there's a lot of flexibility here. So during the interview, we were talking about security and physical security, electronic security, crisis management, and all that stuff is normal to Fauji's. They do it all the time. And Scott asked me, "What do you know about anti-counterfeiting?" And I was like, "Well, anti-counterfeiting is, I understand it. And how do you know about it? Can you give me anything on this?" And I said, "Well, I work with the Reserve Bank of India. A lot of counterfeit notes come into the bank, and these are from very, different kind of sources. We need to lodge police complaints. Then there are raids on those places, and then there is a whole cycle of things which you need to investigate in the background. Who are these players who are doing it? Because it ruins the economy and wrecks the economy." So he was like, "Well, you nailed it on the head. And would you be willing to take over this the brand protection part and anti-counterfeiting?" I said, "Well, definitely." So I was the head of brand protection, leading intelligence investigations and raids against counterfeiters of fake medicines. That taught me a lot. 4.5 years of that across the country, in Bangladesh, in Sri Lanka. Worked with external agencies also, like a lot of links with external nefarious organizations that would smuggle through ports, Sri Lankan ports. There would be intercontinental cases of smuggling, and there I got into the part where capacity building for law enforcement. It's basically when you, because you have learned how to investigate, you know about the products, you know about the security measures on the product. So you learn about the product life cycle, product security, supply chain integrity, supply chain security. All these things are a part of this whole brand protection and global, anti-counterfeiting. So I was very, very interested in this particular subject. So I sort of developed a lot of interest in this, and I continued with it. I started speaking in forums because I was practically doing those things on the ground, and I was going to the CBI Academy to address, the CBI officers, or how do we do investigations, where we need their support, and how can they, help us with this whole thing. I went to the National Academy of Customs and Narcotics, where the IRS interns are being trained. So I was speaking to them, I was training them through FICCI and CII. So I was a part of the National Intellectual Property Committee of the FICCI and CII both at certain point of time. That was a period of 5 years that I spent. So Pfizer 4.5 years, and then Diageo.
Who was the DG of CIA that time, sir? Who was the Director General of CIA that time? General Shami Mehta.
I think so. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, and obviously Anil Rajput, who is the FICCI Cascade chairman. We mostly, worked with the committee under the main FICCI umbrella, which was the Cascade, which was countering the counterfeit scenario and the smugglers. So, well, that's where Pfizer ended and Diageo began, because I got a call from, again, somebody called me and said that there's a very good role. Would you want to consider? I said, well, I don't mind taking a look. and this was into brand assurance. Now, the difference between brand protection and brand assurance and anti-counterfeiting and supply chain security, and there's so much over there. I feel that any Fauji who is transitioning must look at these fields as well, because these are very, very natural fields for Faujis to get in, and Faujis are not even aware of these fields. And whenever I speak to them, I try to tell them these are the avenues available. Uh, Brand assurance basically sits under, and there are different models. It is not the same in every company. So there's a lot of flexibility. Sometimes it sits under legal, sometimes it sits under compliance, sometimes it's sitting under security, sometimes it is sitting under corporate relations. Because, and this was, and I chose Diageo over many other roles that I was offered at the same time. I had at least 4 offer letters in my hand at senior vice president levels, head of South Asia levels, with top multinational companies, number one companies and of the world. But I chose Diageo because it was brand assurance and it sat under corporate relations. And there I felt that I have the opportunity to learn about policy advocacy and how to build and how to learn to basically create an environment for the company where the company thrives in a better regulatory environment. So that's where we did a lot of things. Diageo also, it was anti-counterfeiting was one vertical. There was communication, which was other vertical. Reputation protection was another vertical. And so these are things that I did at Diageo. Moved on to Amazon. Amazon was a short stint. I did supply chain security, massive operations, but it was a short stint. And then the guy who had hired me at Diageo called me again and said that I have a role for you. I just walked out of the boardroom and I thought of your name. And so this is how it happens in the corporate world a lot of times. For people who network, what they say, I mean, it is actually, relationships, genuine relationships. When you build something, and if a certain recruiter had called you, if you have had a good relationship, they will think of you again. And so he called me and offered me a role at Oyo. Oyo was flying very high, so they were building, a company which was unprecedented speed. So I had to basically buckle up a, galloping horse and put risk management, emergency response systems on that, law enforcement support. And we did that for 2 years, and then COVID hit. Then I moved on. I think I got a call from Ola. I met Bhavish. It was very good. I joined them. After a while, I got a call. Then the last one, which is now currently my company, I got a call from them in 2021, November. And I figured that, this has somehow become my sort of specialty, that in the unicorns or in the growth stage startups where they need people who can actually support their frameworks and give them and build their processes and governance structures when they're scaling up rapidly. And they need very entrepreneurial people. And I would like to consider myself as entrepreneurial. So that's where I am currently building GamesCraft with the founders and having an amazing time.
Wow, that's quite a journey. Quite a journey. It's been so inspiring. And in fact, so your wife, Sahana ma'am, she's a very, very fine writer. In fact, very famous author and amazing. तो मैं आपको टाइकून क्यों बोला आपको बताता हूँ आपको आपने बोला लेट्स लीव इट टू अंबानी एंड अदानी एंड टाइकून मैं इसलिए बोला भाई सर अ वेटरन who owns a couple of luxury cars, who's very modest and humble about it yet, who drives an Audi, who drives a Mercedes, ठीक है वो भी हाई एंड के ठीक है तो वो टाइकून नहीं हुए मेरे मुझ जैसे वेटरन के मुताबिक इसलिए आपको टाइकून बोला सर बट इट्स बीन सच
like that. In fact, Sahana is a novelist, poet, and now a publisher as well. I am a co-founder with Bare Bones Publishing, which is her initiative. She's the CEO and founder. And so I try to help wherever administratively I can. And I think my initiative, which is going to come very soon, we have not really spoken about it, but this is the first time that on your show I can say that I do have. I founded something called Veteran Global, VTRN Global, and this is with my unit officer, Captain Sunil Pandey, who is
Of
also
course.
very senior, Fauji SS-46, and he was in the US for a long time. He's now back in India, and we both, in fact, started this initiative around 3 years ago. We've been on the concept stage for a long time, and we do want to do things properly. So we are taking our time, and I hope that. By the way, I've been talking to people for 21 years now. In fact, the simplest thing to put it, what VTR and Global sets out to do is whatever I've been talking to people, hand holding them and mentoring them, I want to digitize it and make it into something that more people can access. The knowledge that somebody passes on, the experience that it's very nuanced for Fauji's. When Fauji's transition, I understand their anxiety because the stage now which short service officers come out is actually very tricky. They're married, they have kids with 10 years of service, they have probably bought a car or a house, and they have EMIs to pay. They have a lot of things to do, but they are, again, very anxious. What would they land up? Where would they land up? Do they have anything? What is their skill set? The first question I get is, sir, मैं बाहर आके क्या कर सकता हूँ? Very difficult question to answer, but I can understand the genesis of that question, and then I try to help people, try to assist and share my experience so that somebody learns from it, and so that's what we are trying to do, and that's the latest.
A little bird told me that, apparently you had also uh, advised Colonel Pandey when he was hanging up his uniform. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Pandey is the brother of the Chief of the Army Staff, General Manoj Pandey. Sir, tell me about your association with Colonel Pandey, if you might like to share, please.
So no, I won't say that I advised him as such, but then definitely we spoke a lot. Colonel Sanket Pandey, sir is, in fact, sir has been very kind. Sir, we have been always been in touch. He's been outside for a while. He served with the UN, and when he was in India and he had hung up his boots and he was, going to take some calls and decisions. I happened to be connected to him and we spoke, and I shared my experiences with him. And I think, there was something that clicked that he did, and he definitely, sir definitely, tells me that he did have some benefits from speaking to me. I would say that that's a big compliment, and so I think he's now. I in fact reached out to him after some time. I think last year. I said, sir, UN में आप हैं, sir, UN में क्या opportunities है बताइए. So I wanted to make him my mentor now.
Yeah.
Hello, can you hear
The
me?
network broke. Yes, I can hear you, sir. That's so heartening to hear, sir. So
Yes.
heartening to know.
In fact, I
Really,
mentioned it.
thank you for your time. And you've been very generous with
Yeah.
your time. हाँ आपने चीफ को बताया था मेरे ख्याल से you had told the chief about it, sir.
No, I just mentioned
You
that I
told
know,
General
sir.
Manoj Pandey when we were a veterans cocktail for the veterans.
Yes, I just mentioned it to him that, sir,
Sir.
in
Chief
fact, before
was
the
a very magnanimous.
hello, hello.
Sorry, sir, there was bad network. So
No worries. No
sir,
worries. In fact, I was going to give a
so sorry.
thank you note to everyone because I was live and you were not.
I know, sir. I'm so sorry, sir. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me for that. Sir, it's
No,
been
no, no.
such a delight, sir. It's been such a delight being in conversation with you, sir. बहुत मजा
Thank
आया सर, बहुत मजा आया आपकी जर्नी सुन के and बहुत inspiration भी मिली सर. So before we part ways
you.
and I say good night to you, any last message you would like to throw out in the universe for anyone? It could be for veterans transiting from the uniform, from the battlefield to the boardroom. It could be the youth of our country. It could be anyone, just anyone, sir.
No, I mean, I think there's a lot of messages that normally one would like to give. But my current passion that I have, and I've been trying to build something that is veteran global. I think that is to do with transitioning of our brothers and sisters from the armed forces, and I I have seen one thing that when people connect with me, there's a lot of anxiety and there's a lot of fear. They might not want to accept it, but it is because it comes to, and they are the most risk taking people that I know of because Fauj mein hum jate hi hain, we are ready for a bullet. So, there's a little bit of a mindset shift that is needed that you need not fear the corporate world, you
Sir,
need not fear the outside, you
I am
just
so
come
sorry.
out.
There seems to be bad work, and
Yes.
hopefully it should be
So can you hear me now? No.
rectified very, very soon. Let me tell you, until sir comes back, please stay
Right.
connected with us.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
And I presume, I think it was at mine only. But on that note, sir, can you hear me, sir?
I can clearly.
Hello?
I can hear you. Yeah, yeah, I can hear you clearly.
So, anyhow, so on
Right.
that note, I would like to end this conversation. And though I don't feel like leaving sir at all, and going. And thank you very much. Do share this conversation. Jai Hind and good night, everyone.
Jai Hind, good night. Thank you, Ali.